Hello there, we're live from our studios here in Kokomlemle on digital address GA 0992539. Our lead stories this hour. More revelations as a Ejura Municipal Chief Executive Officer denies having a personal relationship with two suspects arrested in connection with the killing of Mohammed Ibrahim Kaka, who were thought to be his bodyguards, even as he admits he works with both of them and the late Kaka for the governing NPP. More as he explains his absence on the day of the incident and the role he played in calling for military intervention. Also coming up, two suspects believed to have killed a head teacher and boat driver have been remanded as police mounts a search for two others. Details as more information emerge on how the man was killed, beheaded and dumped. COVID numbers move up steadily with current new cases at 129, a huge jump from about 24 a few weeks back. We hear from the WHO as it issues final warning of a third wave across the continent. It's your home of fearless, independent and credible journalism. The Pulse is brought to you by Global Communities, Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. Do join us on DSTV 421, GoTV 144, and we're streaming live on our social media handles and on YouTube. My name is Gifty Ando Apia. Many thanks for your time. This is The Pulse. Please be my guest. Municipal Chief Executive for Ejura Dumasi in the Ashanti region, Mohammed Salisu Bamba, says two suspects arrested in connection with the murder of social media activist Mohammed Ibrahim, also known as Kaka, are not his bodyguards as speculated. The two, Ibrahim Isaka and Fuseni Al-Hassan, in police custody, are alleged to be the MCE's bodyguards, but he is denying the claim and blames some people he describes as faceless individuals for using the death of for their parochial interests. The late Kaka was killed late last month for reasons unknown, but some have attributed it to his social activism role. Giving his testimony before the three-member committee, Mohammed Salisu said the late Kaka was a member of the NPP and had no hand in his death.
Relationship with this Anyas person. Why do you think he will turn around to accuse you of certain happenings in Ejura, being your own party member?
As a political leader, most of the time, when things happen in a community or even in a country, we always try to put the blame on political heads. Happenings is on one unfortunate incidents. For example, the president will be somewhere, you see people pointing out fingers on the president. I think it's our politics, the politics that we do.
I want you to reduce it to your level because you have informed us that Anyas is your party member and he even has access to your house. Whatever it is, why do you think the man would behave the way you have described him? Why? Because he's your party member. Yes, we all know as any association we have good ones and bad ones. But to target you in person and make these accusations at you, why do you think will prompt or cause Anyas to do that?
I actually don't know what Anyas has done. But then, if I wasn't the MC or I'm not a political leader in Ejura, I don't think somebody would have pointed finger at me. Especially looking at the circumstance and the time at which we are. I believe that is the main reason why. But if I were not, I'm not the MC or I'm not the leader of the party from the period that I mentioned to date, I don't think somebody will point finger at me. Because we have different type of relationship with people. We have friends, we have people that you know because of party work, your party executive and all whatnot. So I believe it's because of the politics of it. That is why people want to link me to it.
These two men who were arrested, that it has been alleged they are your bodyguards. How well do you know them?
As I explained earlier on, I know them to be our party members and they are our polling station executives. That is how I know them.
Apart from that, you don't have any personal relationship with them?
We don't have personal relationship. Our relationship is political relationship.
Do you have a bodyguard?
I am somebody who mostly...
Do you have a bodyguard?
I have one police bodyguard that I work with sometimes.
You have one police escort?
Yes.
So personally, apart from that official escort, you don't have any personal bodyguard?
I don't have a personal bodyguard.
So why did they say that these two are part of your bodyguards?
That is the politics of it. That's what I was talking about.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello. Honorable, my final word to you. Do you think politics has anything to do with several such crises in Ghana?
Yes.
And in your jurisdiction?
Yes.
Thank you.
That's the MC there. Well, he was out of Edra during the disturbances and says that he was asked to stay away due to security concerns during the disturbances that led to the death of 2 and injuries to some 6 people. According to Mohammed Salisu, his presence could have made matters worse.
I left Edra on Monday morning, 28, around 6 to 7 a.m.
And returned.
And on Tuesday, I returned to Idra.
In the evening or afternoon?
Actually, I was going to Idra in the afternoon. Then I had a call that I'm advised not to come to Idra. So I tried to find out why shouldn't I come. Then that it was for security, for my own security. That is why I'm advised not to come to Idra. And later on, some elders also sent a message through somebody to call and inform me that this is what is. I'm abreast with what is happening. I'm in touch with all the security heads, and that this is what is happening on the ground. And for that matter, I should stay away for a while.
Okay, so then I will not press you further to tell us when you arrive back.
Very well.
That's fine, thank you. Okay, so yes, please continue.
So generally, this is the briefing I had with regards to the issues that happened in Nigeria between 26th and 29th. So after the 29th incident, we discussed among ourselves that we should find a way of supporting the security agencies so that they can be on the ground for some time to make sure that things normalize fully before they leave.
Well, Ohimi Interior sat through the committee's hearing at the Prempeh Assembly Hall in Kumasi. Ohimi is joining me. Ohimi, what more came up at this sitting today?
Thank you, Gifty. The issue of the relationship of the municipal chief executive for Edra Sechedumanse with the 2 suspects became a subject of discussion at the committee sittings with the committee members probing further as to what the MCE know about, especially one of them, Ibrahim Isaka, also known as Enyas. And the committee members, reviewed that somewhere last year, this Ibrahim Enyas is on record to have had issues with security operatives in Edra. And then at the point when government announced the closure of all markets in the country, Anyas then ordered the opening of the markets in Edra, and it's something that the MCE admitted that, yes, this information was actually in public space, and it's something that he admitted to the extent that he had to take the intervention of the Ashanti Regional MPP executives to intervene and resolve this issue. The committee probed further as to whether this young gentleman is a friend or probably somebody who is and dine with the MCE, and he responded in the negative that Anyas is not his friend, just that he is somebody who is a polling station executive for the party, as well as Husseini Alasan, the two of them being MPP polling station executives in the.
Hello, Ohimeng. Looks like Ohimeng froze there on me, but he was giving us an update of what happened, what else happened at the Edra killing sittings today. As you heard him, the MCE was called to respond to some questions concerning the people who were arrested in connection with Kaka's death. And of course, Kaka's death is what has sparked all of the other deaths and the other agitations that came up as well. Today, he said that he didn't know the Anyas personally, but he knew them to be party members and that they worked with them. In fact, he also talks about knowing Kaka himself, who he identifies as an MPP member. Ohimeng is back. Ohimeng, continue with what you were saying. Unmute for me, Ohimeng.
Yes, Gifty, the committee quizzed the MCE on whether he has received any training on crisis management or security management issues, of which he answered in the negative that he has not received anything of a sort. And he also tended to say that in the Edra area, there are some people he described as faceless individuals who want to use the death of Kaka for their parochial interests. And he says, because of this, the political landscape in that community has been polarized. And so I must say, throughout the discussion, throughout the committee setting, as far as the MCE was concerned, it bordered on events before Kaka's death, after Kaka's death, and then his relationship with the two suspects who were picked up. And if, for instance, he was aware of the security in the military officers who were deployed to that community, on whose instructions were they detailed to the community, and what actually transpired. Well, did he actually receive briefing from the security officers and all that? So these are the issues that came up as far as Mr. Salisu Bambe's appearance before the committee is concerned.
Ohimeng, let me ask this. If you do remember, he was also asked about his role when it comes to the invitation of the military intervention. What did he say?
Yes, Salisu Bamba responded that as far as he is concerned, the Municipal Security Committee had interactions, meetings, and discussions on what could be done. So he forwarded the response or the concerns of the MUSEC to the Mampon Divisional Police Command. And it was upon that, request or recommendations that the military were deployed. And he said he's not the one who specifically, requested for the deployment of the military in Nigeria, but that was done by the regional minister, because he was told by the regional minister, Simon Osei-Mensah, that he's the one who requested, ordered the deployment of the military into Nigeria. And all these were, they were looking at ways and means to beef up security. And their concern was, the target was to get more police officers on the ground and to support the maintenance of peace, law and order in Nigeria. But when the military came, it was something, because he thought that probably they had already had discussion with the divisional commander. Their presence was as a result of that discussion. And when he was asked whether he knew that members of the Operation Calm Life were the ones who were deployed to the community, couldn't differentiate between the Calm Life and the military, all that he could tell the committee was that, yes, he's aware military officers were deployed, but even in that one, he cannot differentiate whether they were Camp Life members or not. And he gave details. For instance, he said, in the first place, when he heard information that the military has arrived in Edra, whilst he was preparing a place for them to stay overnight, then information got to him that the officers were leaving only for them to return the following day. So all this information was made available to the committee, and he also explained why he thinks that the military officers shouldn't have, shot at the people. He said that yes, the best they could have done was to use minimal force. And when the committee sought to find out from him what minimal force could be, he couldn't explain further, but just to say that he wasn't expecting the military, to have shot into the crowd. Though he admits that at a point in time, the residents of Idra, the angry youth, actually faced the military by pelting them, some to the point of facing them with sticks and all that. So yes, Mr. Salisu Bamba explained all these before the committee.
Okay, Ohime, who else is suspected? We were actually expecting that the commander who led the team on the ground would be there today. Was there a change in the arrangement, or what happened, and who else is suspected, by the way?
Yes, today we were told the regional security coordinator for the national security was to appear before the committee, but unfortunately, the committee announced that he was not coming because of other engagements somewhere. But the medical superintendent for the Nigeria Government Hospital, Dr. Mensa Manye, who attended to both the dead and the injured persons who received gunshot injuries, also testified before the committee. His meeting with the committee lasted less than 40 minutes. I must say it was one of the short meetings today that the committee had with participants and then people giving testimony at the committee. So apart from the Idra MCE, it was the turn of Dr. Mensa Manye, who said he has been practicing as a general practitioner at the Idra Government Hospital for the past 6 years. That has been his specialty. And then he also talked about how two young men were rushed to the facility, one already dead on arrival, brought in dead, and then another person who also came and spent about 10 minutes at the facility whilst medical practitioners and the staff tried as much as possible to resuscitate him. Unfortunately, they lost him. So he took turns to talk about details of the injuries these victims received, talking about the two gentlemen who died, and then also continued to bombard the committee with medical terminologies. And at the point, when I monitored the room, I could see that the committee members at a point we just asked for a breakdown of those medical terminologies in order for them to absorb what exactly Dr. Mensa Manye was communicating to them. Later when I spoke to Dr. Manye, he told me, yes, that is the language he speaks. So we expect the committee members to also understand. When it becomes difficult for them to break it down, then he takes the time to break it down. So yes, he talked about the first victim, one Abdul Yusuf, who was rushed to the Nigeria Government Hospital with gunshot wounds at the back of his left upper chest, and then is penetrating into the chest. And he said, yes, looking at the injury that this particular gentleman received, he was actually brought in dead. He could pick from the fact that he was shot from the back through the left part of the chest. And then the second person, that's Dr. Mensa Manye. He said the first gentleman is 25 years, Abdul Yusuf. And then the second person that was also brought in, and unfortunately he died whilst efforts were being made by the medical team to resuscitate him in that regard, is somebody, he says, Luis Atika, 19 years. And he also gives some details about the kind of injuries that he received. And all these were gunshot injuries that the people or the victims sustained. And he died at the time that efforts were being made. The medical team tried as much as possible to resuscitate him. And then he talked about the fact that he also had internal bleeding as a result of internal injury he sustained. And then 4 other people were also brought in. And with these 4 people, they managed to, bring their situation under control until 2 of them were referred to Confanoche Teaching Hospital, and where they are now currently doing well. And then 4 other women who apparently, were shocked because they were relatives of the deceased. Upon hearing the news that they've lost their family members, also collapsed, and they were rushed to the hospital. But in that regard, they managed to resuscitate and then bring them back to life. So Dr. Amanye took time to explain the injuries and what he make of the injuries that were sustained by the victims in the Edra clashes.
And of course, I also remember the question about whether or not the bullets he took out of the bodies where he could, whether or not he could tell they came from the military. And of course, the person, the Dr. Vladimir Nchudanso himself answered that he was not a ballistic expert and wouldn't be able to know. Ohimi, thank you very much for these updates. Let's wrap it up for now. And I believe that tomorrow they'll be meeting again. We'll be taking that live as well for our viewers.
Tomorrow, the committee will meet. We are told 3 residents of Edra will appear before the committee, as well as the regional security coordinator as well. So we are expecting not less than 4 people to testify before the committee tomorrow.
Thank you very much, Ohimi. Ohimi Teria, there is a member of the security desk here at JoyNews, joining me all the way from Kumasi. Now, we're still staying in that region because 3 suspects have been remanded into police custody by the Kumasi Magistrate Court over the murder of driver and head teacher Israel Ejay Menu at Feyase in the Ashanti region. The police arrested the 2 more suspects named by the prime suspect Rashid Ibrahim to assist in investigations. Richard Adai and Anthony Sekum work at the Black Akasa Shrine as fetish assistants and laborer respectively. The police have mounted a search also for 2 more suspects. We'll be getting an update from the court, but earlier the prime suspect gave details or a detailed account of how he killed the man. Ohimi Teria of our security desk once again monitored the events. He's put together this report.
The decapitated body of the deceased, Israel Ejay Menu, head teacher of Rogel Montessori School at Atonso, was discovered on Sunday, July 4, 2021 by some residents. It took a search party of the police and residents to locate the head in nearby bushes. According to police, the suspect, upon arrest on Sunday, confessed to the crime. He claimed someone assured him of money rituals to make him rich overnight if he presented a human head. Though Rashid was expected to make his first court appearance at the Kontinasi District Court on Wednesday, there was no show. But whilst in handcuffs, Rashid demonstrated to police how he walked down his victim to the bush to pick some speakers. He told police officers he slashed the deceased multiple times from behind with a machete until he fell on the ground. It was after the deceased fell on the ground that he cut off his head. This is the spot where the prime suspect, Rashid Ibrahim, claims that after he has used machete to murder the late Israel Ejay Menu in the bushes here, and blood has splashed into his shirt, he came down here to wash himself here. Behind me is the spot where he claims the driver parked the vehicle after he has picked him from High School Junction, a popular spot at Atonso. Rashid said he then left the body to wash himself of blood stains from a construction tank nearby. But upon sensing some people were approaching the scene, he threw away the decapitated head into the bush and fled the scene. He was later arrested after a resident who saw him in the vicinity reported him to police. From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Ohimi Teria reporting.
Ahime Interior put together that report. Nanaya Jima sat through the court proceedings in Kuntunasi and is joining me now to tell us what happened in court today. Nana, what can you report from today's proceedings in court?
So the prime suspect, that's Rashid, was brought in with two others, according to the police, and Rashid led them to these two others, and they are staff of the shrine that Rashid went to, and that's the Great Akasa shrine here in Kumasi. So according to Rashid, he had gone to the Great Akasa shrine for money ritual after seeing an advertisement on Amansan TV. So when he went there, he was told to bring a human head. So that was, we are talking about November 2020. So that's last year. That's when Rashid went there. So he has been hatching the plans ever since. And on the 4th of July, he decided to carry out the plan with with Israel being in that incident. So after the court listened to what the police brought in, the police requested for more time to go on with their investigation and also arrest two other suspects who are also staff of the Great Akasa Shrine, including the chief fetish priest himself. And court agreed to that and has remanded all three of them into police custody, and they are supposed to return back to the court on the 22nd of July for the court hearing to continue.
Did the two others who have been arrested say anything regarding the allegation that the prime suspect is making that they asked him to bring a human head?
Not yet. We've not gotten anything so far from the two other suspects. But according to police, they only arrested these people yesterday. So they will need more time to meet the two people and also bring up the charges or fully charge them for their involvement in the third crime. So the police initially have charged Mr. Rashid, that's the prime suspect in this case, with murder, and the other two with abetment.
Abetment to murder. But let me just find out, what was his demeanor? I'm seeing in the video that Ohime put together when the police took him to the scene, the crime scene, that he seemed overwhelmed and is, talking about what he did. In court today, what was his demeanor?
He came in similar demeanor, not much you've been seeing on the television. Rashid was very sober. It looks like he has become very calm. And he walked in with the police, being very obedient, listening to obeying the police gave today. So I think he's very sober. From his facial expression, you could tell that he's overwhelmed with what's happening.
Were the parents or family members or anybody close to the murdered man around? Did they come to the court?
I didn't see any of the relatives of these people. Probably they had been advised to stay away, because the last time I tried getting to the family, according to them, even though they are saddened by the event, they would want to mourn their deceased in private. Right. So I do not know why I couldn't find any, but probably there were some of them who wouldn't reveal themselves to us.
And Nana, before you go, have we had anything from both in Kumasi? I mean, I don't know how it works there, but I'm sure that there is here in Accra, for example, there is an organization, an association of online drivers, for example. Is there anything like that in Kumasi, or even from Bolt itself, one of whose member has been killed? Has there been any such reaction from them?
So far, we've not received anything officially coming out from Bolt or the drivers who operate these businesses. But the information that I've been picking from individual drivers is that they are saddened, and now they are being more cautious where to go and who to pick. So the last time, the one I picked told me that if he goes out and find more than 2 men, it will be difficult for him to agree to accept the request or go ahead and try the business. So I think it brought some sort of fear among these drivers.
Nana, thank you very much for that update, and may his soul rest in peace. Nana Aljima, there, who sat through the court proceedings for the man who was killed, beheaded, and damned. The person who has been charged for his murder is who you are seeing on your screen right now. He was sent to court today. A 34-year-old woman, Nafisa Mensah, has been found dead in a prayer camp KVIP toilet facility at Kaswa Opekuma in the Ewutu-Senya East municipality of the Central Region. The deceased was reported missing on Saturday, the 3rd of June this year. Her body was found on Wednesday, which is today. There is more in this report.
Residents gather in shock at the Christ the Shepherd prayer camp, where 34-year-old Nafisa Mensah was found dead in the camp's KVIP toilet facility. According to sources, the deceased has suffered a mental disorder for a while until she became stable a month ago after receiving what they claim was a series of prayers from the camp. Founder of Christ the Shepherd Prayer Camp, Most Reverend Comfort Ntiamwa, explained the incident took them by surprise.
My
child told me the woman's mother complained her child was missing. When we went to some radio stations to report the case, the girl's mother suddenly told us she knew where her child was. She took us to the toilet facility where we found the body. This means her mother knew all that was happening. Meanwhile, the Ewutu-Senya East NADMO director, Kwame Amwa, who visited the incident site, expressed shock after seeing the hole in which the deceased was found.
Shocking where we found the body. It's difficult to say. There's no way someone could fall into such a hole. The police must investigate this.
Municipal Environmental Officer of Ewutu-Senya East, Johnson Lodo, however, indicated that measures were being put in place to retrieve the body.
In fact, it's highly decomposed. And once it's highly decomposed, it makes it unsafe to handle, especially when the hygiene protocols are not adhered to. The corpse is managed sanitarily, because as it is it's highly infectious because of the toilet and then the couple with the dead body. So we need people who follow the protocols under my supervision, so we remove it and then package it nicely for the police to send it to the police morgue for further investigation.
The deceased was mother of 4 children.
We'll certainly keep our eyes on those stories as well. You're watching The Pulse with me, Gifty, and up here. We'll take a very quick break. When we return, we'll take you to WA to find out what the committee sitting on the members of the military who went out to brutalize civilians are saying. Do stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back, and thank you for staying with us. Now, members of a military contingent found to have participated in the beating up of civilians at WA in the Upper West region have been handed various punishments, including 30 days in detention. This was after a 4-member team probing the matter concluded its initial investigations. The soldiers were filmed in viral videos on the streets, beating up residents following allegations a mobile phone belonging to one of them had been stolen. Upper West Regional Correspondent Rafiq Salam has the rest of the story.
The 4-member joint team formed under the auspices of the National Security comprised of 2 personnel from the Military High Command and 2 from the National Investigation Bureau. It has Colonel Blizzard Ayorobo as the team leader, with Lieutenant Colonel George Edward BC, Francis Abuaje, and Max Oldasa as members. They began work on Monday by receiving initial briefing from the commander of the 10th Mechanized Battalion Agri Barracks, Lieutenant Colonel F.K. Jima, before meeting the Upper West Region Minister, Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali, Upper West Commander of the National Investigation Bureau, Alexander Audu, and the Upper West Commander of the Ghana Police Service, DCOP, Francis Abouadinyako. The team later on Monday met 29-year-old Gafuru Mahama, who developed a fracture in his right thigh bone and went under the knife at the Upper West Regional Hospital. They also met 15 other victims, including the public relations officer of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council, Cletus Awuni. On Wednesday, the team spent the whole day at the 10th Mechanized Battalion Agri Barracks, meeting the soldiers who are alleged to have brutalized a stream of people in Wa on July 1. Our source revealed that the team was able to meet less than 30 of the 86 soldiers who were alleged to have humiliated and brutalized a stream of residents. The team is expected to be back at room 36 of the Upper Hospital Coordinating Council to interrogate a handful of victims they could not meet on Tuesday. They will round up their investigations by going back to the barracks to interrogate the over 4 dozen soldiers left. Meanwhile, JoyNews is learning that the team has made some preliminary findings on the investigation so far. Our sources said a soldier whose name is withheld on June 30 alleged his mobile phone was snatched from him around 18 hours. He informed his colleague private soldier, who in turn informed the duty officer same day. The duty officer is alleged to have permitted the troops to go to town to search for the missing mobile phone, which consequently led to the alleged brutality in Wa. The team found out that 11 persons suffered various degrees of injuries, 4 admitted at the Wa Municipal Hospital, 3 treated and discharged. Victims interrogated reported a loss of 13 mobile phones and 14,600 Ghana cedis. The preliminary findings also revealed that all personnel who were on duty on the day of the incident had been punished appropriately. Most of them had been demoted from their ranks. Some officers who were deeply involved and visibly identified in various videos brutalizing some residents have been charged, tried, and awarded 30 days detention by a disciplinary board chaired by the commanding officer. Meanwhile, the 4-member team will on Thursday continue their investigations. Reporting for JoyNews, Rafiq Salam. Wow.
Well, Rafiq Salam has joined me from Wa. Rafiq, let's take an update on this one. I want to start with the responses we've had so far. First of all, are the victims happy now?
I've spoken to some of the victims, and their reaction is mixed. Some of them are of the opinion that the punishment meted out to them is good. Others are also saying that they should be given a more harsher punishment by being sacked from the military.
And regarding the traditional leaders, they were, they came together and they said until they see what they called justice at the time, that they won't even accept the apology that came in. Are they also happy? How have they responded to this?
Speaking to some opinion leaders in town, they were really happy about the swift response of the military to this particular issue. But what they would have wished that it's done was that they wanted the hearing to be done in the public so that many people who have participated and see it. And also, one also worry from the public also has to deal with the publicity regarding this committee. Many people, as I have spoken to, are saying that they are not really aware of this committee that is put in place, and then they don't know where to even go for the hearing. And so some of them were really surprised when we told them about the committee was in place and they were going around doing investigations. There are still scores of people who were allegedly brutalized by the military, but who have not yet appeared.
Well, the minister, the original minister, you've mentioned him in the report as well. Has he also made any comments on the back of this, the work that the committee has done so far?
Upper West Region Minister Dr. Hafiz Bin Sali has not commented publicly on the work of the 4-member committee. But what I can tell you is that this morning, there was a RECSEC meeting that had this 4-member team also joining at the RECSEC meeting. But the information that I had from the RECSEC was that the minister was happy, at least for steps are being taken by the 4-member joint team. It was there that also my information at the RECSEC also indicates that some of the victims that they have spoke, the committee spoke with the minister directed that they should go to the hospital for medical report, and after which the RCC was going to foot their medical bills. And so that is the only information that we have from the side of the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council and from the Upper West Regional Minister.
Does this also mean that the committee has completed its work?
The committee hasn't completed the work. So today, what they did was to be at the RECSEC, and then after that, they went to the hospital with some of the victims, and that was where they had their medical reports. And then after that, the committee seized the opportunity to also visit Gafur Mahama, a 29-year-old vulcanizer who developed a fracture on the right eye bone, and they spoke with him, they interacted with him, and then they were able to interrogate him for him, and according to the committee, they had useful information from him as far as the investigation is concerned. As I speak to you now, the committee is on their way back to the Upper West Regional Coordinating Council room 36 to continue with the sitting.
Okay, Rafiq, thank you very much for the update. Rafiq Salam is our correspondent in the Upper West region. Away from Rafiq. Let's talk about Rosewood. Now, government is on the heel of an exporter who attempted to smuggle out of the country 5 full containers of rosewood through the Tema port. This is despite the April 2019 ban on the harvesting and transporting of rosewood instituted to save the endangered tree species. The latest seizure at the port happened last week. This afternoon, we want to have a conversation with the Deputy Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, Benito Owusu-Bio. He is in charge of forestry. He's joining me via Zoom. So thank you very much for your time and good afternoon to you. Hello, Mr. Bio, can you hear me? I think you are muted. Okay, so I'm trying to get Benito Owusu-Bio, who is the Deputy Minister in charge of forestry, of course, at the Lands and Natural Resources, so we talk about it. Now, what we know is that Ghana loses a lot of money to these legal exports. And these exports mainly, I mean, there are several specific countries that these exports are mainly targeted at, and China tops the list. Let me try again if we can get through to the Minister, Deputy Minister. Mr. Bio, can you hear me?
Yes, I do. I can hear you.
Perfectly. Thank you very much for your time and good afternoon. So let me begin with your own observations as far as the harvesting or the legal harvesting and exports of rosewood is concerned. Now in this particular position, what has been your general observation?
I would say that currently we've observed that the ban that we brought about has really worked. I would say it's really worked because currently the illegal trade and illegal export of rosewood has come down to its barest minimum. Yes. So I would say it's working.
When you say it's the illegal activity has come down to its barest minimum, do you have any evidence? Do you have any statistics, for example, to back that position?
Yes, I do, because what I would say is that currently, hardly do you see truckloads of them along the route from the north to the south or to the ports. Hardly do you see them. And with the good collaboration that is going on between the various northern regional coordinating councils and the House of Chiefs, they also coming on board to help with making sure that the ban is enforced. I'll say that has really helped a lot. We will thank them very much, especially our chiefs up north, the Savannah region to be precise, where even the chiefs themselves have also placed a ban on the felling, the transport, and even the trade in Rosewood. And I'll say that has really helped. Until we heard of the recent 5 containers that were arrested at the port. I would say the trade in Rosewood was so quiet that you couldn't even hear of anything ongoing regarding that particular illegal trade. So I would say it's working. And we'll keep on with the enforcement and ensure that it comes down to its barest minimum.
Let me just take you through. Let me just take you through a bit of findings here. The Environmental Investigation Agency. This is an organization based outside of Ghana, in Washington, and they put together these details that shows that although the ban was in place as of 2019. Last year alone, the export of Rosewood amounted to some $5.6 million from Ghana to China alone.
Matilda, when you say last year, are you referring to the year 2020?
Yes, 2020,
Gifty, are you referring to the year 2020?
It is, sir.
Because the EIA report was done somewhere in 2019. Their report was on 2019 and not 2020.
They have a report that's dated.
We, as a ministry, I remember we then.
Okay, I just want to put the figures across so that you can help me clear it up if that is not the case. In 2019, the figure they have here goes to the amount. Goes to somewhere about 6 million trees. They talk about 6 million trees that were felled. This was in 2019. But I do have some here that indicates that as of 2020, it was about $5.6 million worth of rosewood that was exported. Does this not resonate with what you have?
I don't recollect any figures like that.
Okay.
Because we will be shocked and surprised if really such figures of rosewood trees, even if we do have them in Ghana, 6 million trees gifted. That is very, very strange and surprising. We don't have that number of rosewood trees in Ghana. So I will be very, very much surprised.
Okay, that's them putting it together from 2012. That's them putting it together from 2012 to 2019.
2012 to 2020.
To 2019.
Yes. Then I think you are referring to the same old report. You are referring to the 2019 report.
Right.
And not anything in connection with 2020. Yes. Okay. So if that is the case, what I'm saying is that since 2020, rosewood, the illegal trade in rosewood has been reduced and it has come down to its barest minimum.
And I asked for statistics, like the numbers.
Hello?
Yes, I was asking for the numbers. Yes, sir.
No, the numbers, what through our ministry and then the Forestry Commission, what really has been exported, that was in 2020, had to do with the impounded rosewoods that were seized. As we enforce the law, the recalcitrant traders who deal in rosewood, some of them still go on, and as they do that, we arrest, impound the rosewood, and we keep them. But then after some time, we realize it will be important that at least they are auctioned so that the nation would get some source of revenue out of that. But then once you do that, you will then be also bending the rule to ensure that you have to also allow them to export it, because if you've auctioned them to them, then you have to allow them to export it. But that too, we realize, kept on fueling the illegal trade. So as we speak now, we say that even if rosewood is seized or impounded, we will only auction them to local traders who will have to use them for the local production of furniture and nothing else. We are not going to give anybody a CITES permit for them to export it, and also they are not going to be allowed to export it to anywhere. Once you don't have any CITES permit, and then you try to export it, when you are arrested, we would make sure the law deals with you. And I think this would help in ending the illegal trade in Rosewood. Because without the CITES permit, I don't see how they can even trade in it in Asia. Gifty.
Yes, sir.
You know, when Rosewood gets to Asia, the manufacturers of furniture, that is the high-end furniture, who buys them, use them in the production of furniture, high-end furniture. But then before they can be able to export them, those furniture to Europe or to the US or the Americas, they have to attach the CITES permutation. They have to, the CITES permit, they have to add that to it so that those who, the purchasers, will then be assured that that particular wood is coming from sustainable sources.
Right.
And without that, these merchants will not buy this furniture. And so without CITES, it will be very, very difficult for even the Asian buyers to buy them. Because when they buy them, they cannot use them to produce the furniture that they want to use them for, and then to export them to the Western countries for them to get the high premium money that they expect from them.
I believe that's
going to be very difficult for them, and then you help us.
Yeah, I believe that's also part of the sort of monitoring system they have there. But let me just take you back a little bit to find out that recently your minister issued a statement that was, announcing the ban on the, harvesting and export of rosewood. But we're wondering why that is necessary or has become necessary, because that we all thought that the ban was already in place and already been enforced.
Yes, Gipti, you are right. The ban was already enforced. But the new aspect of the minister's directive happens to be the fact that going forward, nobody will be given a permit, that is a CITES permit. Whether you bought the wood legally through an auction or not, nobody will be given that permit for them to export it outside Ghana. That is the new aspect of it.
Okay.
Because we realize that people, the same people who were illegally felling the rosewood in the savannah areas of our country, usually found a way out to partake in the auction process. So once they are able to purchase the wood out of auction, then they will then use that auction process to also acquire a cited permit to take it abroad. But now what the minister is saying is that going forward, there's not going to be any CITES permit to be issued to any body for the export of rosewood. So whether you purchase them through an auction or whether you got it through an illegal means, you are not going to be allowed to export it.
Okay.
And that the export of rosewood is banned.
Right.
Now, information has gone to the customs service as well, and then our port authorities, that going on, moving forward, there's a current ban that is a total ban on the export of rosewood.
Okay.
So nobody can go to the port with a container of rosewood and say that, oh, I have a permit because I purchased this from an auction at the Forestry Commission, so I should be allowed to send it out.
Which is why I believe
information has gone now.
Right, which is why I believe that you recently, was able to impound the 5 containers of rosewood that was meant for export at the Tema port. You yourself were there to inspect those containers and said that you were looking for those involved. Have you found them now?
Yes, it's good you have brought this up. What we were at the port upon a tip-off from the customs and then also the authorities at the port. And we were shocked to hear about it. But then we decided to go there and inspect and to be sure that if really those 5 containers were full of rosewood, we got there, lo and behold, yes, they were rosewood. And these particular shipment had no documentation on it, especially when I mentioned documentation, I mean, it had no permit. Yes, so no matter the situation, those 5 containers were being exported illegally.
Have you found the owners now?
Excuse me?
I'm asking if you found the owners now.
Yes, the investigation is still ongoing, but then I can be able to tell you that before the end of next week, the actual owners or the corporates will be found out. The information we have is the shipper. And then through the shippers or the freight forwarders, we are using that information to get to who the owners of the consignment were. We have also written to the Customs Division of the Ghana Revenue Authority for them to release those containers back to us for safekeeping and and also for further investigation to go on.
Okay.
So we know that before the end of the week, we would be allowed to pick them up from the port and then bring them to Accra to be kept for safekeeping. And then we would ensure that we would investigate and get down to the bottom of this.
We'll look forward to, indeed it is. And we'll look forward to that announcement, or that we will come to you to get that information, because then it helps to deter others who might want to do it. The way that people believe that the way that we deal with this will determine how people believe in the measures we are putting in place. But then, sir, let me bring your attention to this one. Now, there is a story making rounds that the company that owns it had actually tried to export this earlier, and they were seized, auctioned, and then this same company bought it back. So if this is true, how does a company that's dealing in illegal rosewood get to buy the stocks again during a government auction?
You see, that is what we have now realized, that, look, they disingenuously go around, I mean, through another means, maybe through other sources, by partaking in the legal auction that goes on after the wood has been impounded. Yes, it's not the same people who come forward to buy them. They'll send some other corporates or other accomplices to come and then do that purchase. But we are saying that is the end of it. Going forward, we are not going to auction them for the purpose of export. Okay. We are going to auction them for the purpose of the local production of furniture. As we speak now, we have had a lot of consultation with the Furniture Association of Ghana, the Furniture Producers Association of Ghana, especially those who deal in the high-end furniture production. We have companies like Fernat who have approached us. We have actually even given them samples of it for them to take to the workshops.
Sorry to interrupt you, sir. Sorry to interrupt you, sir. That is what I want us to end the conversation with, that particular one. You know, how your ministry is going to regulate this new initiative that you're bringing up, as far as how we use the rosewood that you seize are concerned. I would like us to end with that. But back to the investigation that you are conducting, does that mean that you have identified this organization? Because if they came back to buy what you were selling on auction, then you do know that this was the organization that tried to export it the first time. Based on your investigations, is that the same organization?
We currently don't have the name. Investigation is ongoing. But what I'm saying is that, yes, we know that is the modus operandi. That was how they were working, and that's the means by which they went around to be able to get it again. So moving on or going forward, we are not going to allow them to come and then purchase auction Rosewood for the purpose of export.
Okay. Now
that is going to end.
Okay.
But then, like you mentioned, yes, the future of the industry or the future of Rosewood in Ghana is, first of all, we are to ensure that Rosewood must be sustainably managed. That is, if any at all, we intend to use Rosewood or we intend to make use of the economic use of Rosewood, we must make sure that it is done sustainably.
Okay.
So first of all, we are to ensure that we use them locally, because we know that if it is used locally by our furniture producers, then the volumes will not be that much. That is the first issue. Secondly, we would earn a lot of foreign exchange through that. And then also it will lead to the creation of more jobs and employment for our teeming youth who are unemployed. So that is very important that we ensure that we give these as raw materials to our own furniture producers.
Okay.
The association is in dire need of wood as raw material. You know, we've depleted a lot of our forest cover to the extent that the wood industry in Ghana now is challenged in terms of raw material, access to raw material. So if we have wood like rosewood in Ghana, which we all know that its products are expensive and valuable, then it is important that we encourage the use of it locally.
Right. Okay.
So that we can also earn a lot from it.
Exactly.
And we are doing that. We have spoken to companies like Fernat, giving them samples of rosewood, and we've been made aware that they've started using it for the production of some of their furniture. And at the end of the day, we'll be going over there to inspect, and we will encourage more of the furniture producers to also come on board.
I want to step in there. What are the processes? I mean, how do I know that as a furniture production company, I can just, jump on and get rosewood from the ministry? What are the modalities that have been put in place?
Thank you, Gipti. Gipti, rosewood comes from an area of Ghana where I would say the ecology is a bit sensitive to climate change and the effects of global warming, especially these are savanna and our transitional zones. So as a policy, rosewood harvesting will still be banned, and we would enforce that.
I think you've answered this question already, Mr. Benito Bill. What I'm after is whether
I'm trying to make a point.
Okay. I'm running out of time, so if you could make a brief for me.
I'm trying to make a point, and so as a result of that, we don't intend to allow people even to give them permit to go and harvest rosewood. But what we intend to do is that if anybody is caught or any rosewood is seized through an illegality in terms of people going to fell it, then it will be auctioned. The auction process will be made public for everybody to hear of. But then, as much as possible, the end buyers, those who will be given the chance to buy, will only be furniture producers.
All right.
And no other persons.
Okay. As I said, I really wanted to go a bit more into that one, but I've run out of time. But let me just ask this. Your minister at his recent appearance at the Public Accounts Committee used the word cartel to describe those involved in the illegal rosewood trade. So if we know that there is a cartel, what is stopping us from breaking up this cartel?
The best way to stop them, Gifty, is to make sure they are out of business.
How are we doing that, sir?
Yes. Yes, we are doing that by making it impossible for them to even export rosewood.
Why don't we arrest them? Because they are obviously doing something illegal.
Yes. As for illegality, you know, no matter what, people will always try to do things illegally.
So if we know them, let's arrest them then.
Excuse me?
If we know them, let's arrest them then. Why are we not arresting them?
Currently, yes, for your information, those who try to export these 5 containers, the investigation is still ongoing. If we are able, and I know we will be able to get to the bottom of it, and once we get to the bottom of it, we would ensure that those people will be punished. But then moving forward, the information is out there at the ports, to the customs division of the GRA, and even the various terminals of the port, including our own forestry commission staff, that henceforth, nobody is allowed to export any form of rosewood as a log or whatever, and that you do that at your own risk. And there can be no exception to the extent that, oh, I bought it from an auction. No, rosewood can never be got through any legal means in Ghana. And as a result of that, moving on, I'll say what I'll say is that will help us, and we'll be able to nip the illegal trade
in the bud. This is my final question, sir. You chaired a committee, a commission that actually looked into allegations that members of the NPP and members of the Forestry Commission were actually neck deep in this illegal activity, and there were some recommendations. What has become of those recommendations from your commission?
Yes, yes. There were several recommendations from the committee. Notable one was the director. I quite remember the director who was in charge of the CITES at the Forestry Commission was made to resign, and he is no more there. And then we also ensured that going on, moving forward, nobody could, especially the staff of Forestry Commission, none of them should be involved again. We put in measures there to the extent that we now even have a deputy Forestry Commission chief executive who is currently in charge of that. He has that as a schedule to ensure that the illegal trade in rosewood is stopped. Okay. And so a lot of recommendations were done. But then there was one particular aspect which is still ongoing, which we are working on. Okay. That has to do with making sure that we collaborate more with the customs division of the GRA, and then also the Freight Forwarders Association, and then the terminal operators, to ensure that they can be able to identify the specific type of wood.
Okay.
You know, the committee found out that the workers of customs, said during the interviews that they couldn't tell between rosewood and other species of wood.
Okay.
So sometimes they are challenged in being able to identify the type of wood.
Right.
And as a result of that, we are going to take them through some training exercise to ensure that they be able to identify the wood. And then also,
if you make that brief for me, sir, because I've run out of time, I'll be very grateful.
We are going to put up an office at the end point. That is at the export area, the export point at the terminal to ensure that our people will be there. The Forestry Commission staff will be there. They'll be working hand in hand with other agencies like the Energy Commission personnel who are there, because they also helped a lot. I have to say thank you, a big thank you to the staff of the Energy Commission, and then also the staff of the Global Terminal at the port, and then also the customs officials, especially Mr. Japasu, who helped us in
dealing with this trip. Unfortunately, sir, I've run out of time and I need to wrap up. But I really appreciate your time with us. I really appreciate your time shared with us to give us this information. Very good information, I must say. And we'll look forward to the end of the investigation to track down the owners of the 5 containers, and also to understand a bit more what furniture organizations, for example, can do to benefit from this auction process for the Rosewoods that you seize. Thank you very much. Benito Usubio is Deputy Minister of the Lands and Natural Resources. He's in charge of forestry. They're bringing us up to speed on some of the things that are happening as far as Rosewood, the endangered species, is concerned. The illegal trade is still going on, but he says the ban has made it reduce drastically. Thank you very much once again, sir. The National Labour Commission has directed striking workers of Pantone Psychiatric Hospital to resume work immediately. This follows the Commission's hearing on Wednesday, July 7th, on grievances brought before it by the workers. 5 health unions, including the Ghana Medical Association and the Ghana Registered Nurses and Midwives Association, were at the hearing. Respondents, the Ghana Health Service, were also present together with the Deputy Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Mr. Rekubrobe, as well as officials from the Health Ministry. Having heard parties, the Commission directed, among others, that all the workers who have been on strike since Monday, June 28, must resume immediately. Let's get on the phone and talk to Elvis Ekwamwa. He's a spokesperson for the Joint Union Executive Pantone Hospital. Mr. Ekwamwa, good afternoon. Thank you for your time. What have the unions agreed to do now following this directive from the NLC?
Yes, so the unions are going to comply with this directive. So effective tomorrow morning, work is resuming fully at Pantone Hospital.
So you're going back to work?
Yes.
Effective tomorrow morning, you say?
Yes.
Were there any disagreement among your members as to whether or not this should happen?
No. It was agreed by consensus. And the reason for that is that we have seen that steps have been put in place. And the agency being shown satisfies quest to have a very safe environment within which to work with. First and foremost, the Ministry for National Security would issue an advert raising red flags over Pantone land, that whoever invests money into such land, that's who I think government is interested.
You say that measures have been put in place. Can you walk us through these measures and the level of satisfaction?
That's what I'm doing.
Right.
First and foremost, the National Security Ministry will put up an advert saying that there are red flags on the Pantone Hospital lands, and so whoever invests money in the purchase of such lands, that's who at his or her own risk, to allow for time for other issues to be looked at. Secondly, the municipal chief executive of La Nkwan Medina Municipal Assembly has been asked to produce through the court a restraining order restraining further development of the encroached land. Then again, she has gotten a contractor, and the instructions are that the contractor should within 2 months make sure that the fence wall is in place. Then again, the IGP is making sure that adequate police personnel are deployed on ground to beef up security in the facility. So this is how far, we have come, and we think that it is satisfactory enough to, meet the duty bearers halfway by returning to work, whilst we, on a weekly basis, follow up on all that has been agreed.
This sounds like a win-win from where I sit, is it?
Yes, it is.
All right. So you go back to work tomorrow, and definitely look forward to the implementation of all that you've agreed upon, especially the war that is supposed to be completed in the next 2 months.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kwame. Unless there's anything else that the viewers need to know, we'll end it here.
Yes, so what the beauty of it is that there is still an opportunity for us. Once we see that there is a resurgence or probably a lack-sided attitude on the part of duty bearers regarding what each and every agency is supposed to be doing, without notice, we will retreat.
Thank you very much for your time. Mr. Kwame there speaks for the union, the Pantone Health Workers Union there. Now, the worst is yet to come for Africa as third wave continues to gain speed and new ground in different parts of the continent. In its latest COVID-19 briefing, the Africa regional head for the World Health Organization says it will take several weeks for the continent to end the spread of the new variant due to reducing testing and lack of information. Dr. Matidiso Moeti adds the cases are doubling now every 18 days compared to 21 days a week ago.
On the continent, there have now been almost 5.7 million COVID-19 cases and 146,000 people, sadly, have lost their lives. New cases have increased for the 7th week running. For Africa, the worst is yet to come as the fast-moving third wave continues to gain speed and new ground in countries. To end this is still going to be several weeks away. Cases are doubling now every 18 days compared to 21 days a week ago. 16 African countries are now in resurgence, with Malawi and Senegal added this week, and the Delta variant has been detected in 10 of these countries. The continent still struggles to gather the information needed. The identification of which variants are circulating in a community has an immediate value to national response teams to inform adjustments to public health and social measures, including sometimes decisions on vaccines. Some countries have yet to build sequencing capacities to detect variants, and even countries that are doing sequencing are hitting against barriers of limited capacity and resources. We can do more to fill these critical information gaps with the resources at hand. In the context of increasing cases, deaths, and limited resources, we're encouraging African countries to integrate PCR screening assays that can detect variants as a complementary approach to sequencing. Assays are easy to use, fast, and can be done using PCR equipment that's already available in all African countries. And while assays will provide information on which variants are in countries, sequencing is still very important to understand further mutations.
Dr. Moeti there. Meanwhile, there's a ray hope for the continent as new vaccine rollouts are being conducted after suspension last month.
Seeing some signs of hope. After coming to a virtual halt in early June, vaccine shipments are gathering momentum. In the last 2 weeks, more than 1.6 million doses have been delivered to Africa through the COVAX facility. Thanks to France, another 300,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccines are expected today in Kenya and Somalia, and donations from Sweden and Norway to additional countries are currently being finalized. COVAX has been working tirelessly to clinch dose sharing pledges and procurement deals with manufacturers to ensure Africans get their vaccines. We expect more than 20 million doses of Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson vaccines to arrive from the United States soon through COVAX in coordination with the African Union. Other significant donations are expected in the coming days from more partners, and Ms. Nguyen will tell us all about this. There is still a long way to go. So far, 50 million doses have been administered in Africa, accounting for just 1.6% of doses globally. 16 million, or less than 2% of Africans, are now fully vaccinated. This means that hundreds of millions of people are still vulnerable to infection and also to severe illness, I might add. With much larger deliveries expected to be arriving in July and August, as a region, we must use this time to prepare to rapidly expand the rollout. Governments and partners can do this by planning to expand vaccination sites, improving cold chain capacities beyond capital cities, sensitizing communities to boost vaccine confidence and demand, and ensuring that operational funding is ready to go when it is needed.
Now, the UK government has confirmed that face masks will no longer be legally required and distancing rules will be scrapped as part of the final stage of England's COVID lockdown roadmap. This move is being met with skepticism in other parts of the continent, especially in Germany. DW's Thomas Sparrow joins me from Berlin. Now, Thomas, most restrictions will be lifted soon in England. How has that decision been received in Germany?
Plans to lift most of England's coronavirus restrictions, and that includes face masks and social distancing, have strengthened a debate here in Germany about when and how to ease restrictions, especially at a time when there are worrying variants. The German health minister, for instance, has said that lifting coronavirus restrictions here will depend on increasing the number of vaccinated people. And he has warned that wearing masks, especially indoors, will still be a rule here in Germany in the autumn and in the winter. German leaders are particularly cautious nowadays, given last year's example, a summer with low case numbers, followed by a spike in autumn and a return to restrictions.
Well, Thomas, since vaccination seems to be the key in dealing with this pandemic, how is that going? I mean, the vaccination in Germany?
More than 50% of Germans have now received at least one dose and 40% are fully vaccinated. Lawmakers have warned that around 85% need to be vaccinated in order to have so-called herd immunity. And although Germany has indeed improved its vaccination rollout compared to the first few months of the year, when the rollout was plagued with problems, there are now reports that vaccination appointment cancellations are piling up at vaccination centres and that essentially more persuading needs to be done in order to get even more people to get the coronavirus jab.
So essentially, what restrictions are there still in place in Germany? Are people now leading what you call a normal life as we used to, perhaps?
Germany has to a large extent reopened, especially after those very hard winter months. So for most Germans, there is a certain return to normality, but with clear guidelines. For example, in order to sit indoors in a restaurant here in Berlin, people need to present a negative antigen test or proof of vaccination or recovery. They don't need such a test if they go shopping, but there are restrictions on the number of people that can shop in one place at the same time. And customers do need to wear masks. Public events are also allowed again, but with clear restrictions, and cultural venues such as museums and galleries are also open again. This, however, is not the case for clubs. So all in all, a cautious reopening with lots of measures to take into account.
Thomas Sparrow there. Thomas, thank you very much for those details all the way from Berlin. Now, let me bring you home to Ghana. Well, our COVID-19 cases are rising steadily, with the average daily case now moving from 80 to 138 within a week. Now, here you go. There you have it on your screen. The new cases at the moment are 138. I think about 2 or 3 weeks down the lane, we had about 24, something less than that. 138. The active cases now are 1,849. And you also see a steady growth, if you like, as though not so much, in the deaths as well. You have 797 people dying from COVID-19. Now, our confirmed cases, all in all, 96,846, nearing 100,000 so far. You're still watching The Pulse. I am Gifty Andopia. I'll do a very quick break. We'll be right back. To stay with us. You're welcome back. Ahead of tomorrow's official commissioning of the Pokwase interchange, some drivers are expressing concerns about navigating the 4-tier interchange. The first of its kind in the country, a road user will have to be extra careful not to end up in a totally different destination from the intended one. My colleague Kwekwa Sante was there today and spoke to some motorists. Here is his report.
No driver should come and tell us that I lost my direction, because the gantry signs are there, the road markings and signs are there, the informatory signs are there. As you are approaching, you'll see the marking and then where you are going posted on the gantry. Look at it and guide yourself. If you are confused, stop. Police will be there.
Apologies for that one. That was a report put together by my colleague Hannah Odame, where the Motor Traffic and Transport Department of the Ghana Police Service is appealing to owners of transport services to encourage their drivers to abide by the road traffic regulations so that they can avoid needless accidents. The head of Education, Research and Training, Superintendent Alexander Obeng, said this when he led a team from his office and officials from the Road Safety Authority to enforce usage of the footbridge at the Pokwase interchange, which has been open for pedestrians. He explains that this was necessary because some members of the public were still crossing the highway, a situation which could end their lives. There is more in this report.
This footbridge on the Pokwase interchange has been open to the public, but users who hitherto were accustomed to crossing the road beneath me will have to adjust to climbing to be able to use this footbridge. And that's why officials of the MTTD are here today to sensitize, encourage, and ask everyone to ensure that they are safe by not crossing the road but using this footbridge. Some of them are having a tough time, like Levity.
Because some of them are aware of the footbridge, but they think it's still locked.
So when you tell them to go back, what is their response? Usually, do they agree with you? Or
others agree, the others don't. Others complain of knee and waist problems. But I try to tell them, because here car can easily knock you down. But when you use here, it's safer.
Some of the pedestrians have also been sharing their concerns as well as their praises for the use of this bridge.
They should finish the footsteps before they will allow us to walk, so that there wouldn't be any trouble or any accident.
It's going to be safe for us to cross the street. And a concern I was actually driving at is what happens at night? How are they going to stop people from crossing the street?
The boss of the MTTD has been speaking to me about how this education will be sustained day and night.
We will be here to help all motorists to adjust, be guided, because police and National Road Safety Authority will not be here around the clock.
From the Pokwase interchange here in Accra, my name is Hannah Odame for JoyNews.
And I guess everybody can't wait for that official opening of the road there. Now, the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center is calling on government to involve more women in politics and peace building, a way of curbing violent extremism. They organized a conference on women, peace and security, where key issues about the operationalization of the aforementioned, as well as violent extremism and terrorism perpetrated by women and youth were raised. My colleague Judith Awache Tando was at the conference and now reports.
The Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center, as part of efforts to promote peace and security in West Africa and the Sahel, conducted a study on women and youth radicalization. Findings revealed some women were involved in violent extremism and terrorism, including the activities of Boko Haram. Interestingly, their research revealed most women involved themselves in terrorism as a result of brutality suffered under state agencies as well as other personal interests. Dr. Fifi Edu-Afo is Deputy Program Head of Peace Support Operations at KIPTC.
The most pronounced one was the involvement of women in Boko Haram activities. And obviously, because Boko Haram has, over the years, adopted a number of young girls, some of these young girls have been radicalized to a point where they themselves have become extremists and went on to commit atrocities. And so on that score, we saw how, in the case of Boko Haram, the role of women were very pronounced. What in the research we term as a formidable tool or formidable propaganda tool for negotiation and rebellion against some of the struggles that they were engaging.
Director of CDD Nigeria, Idayat Hassan, however, believes involving young women in politics and peace building is the only way to curb the disturbing revelations.
I think one very important point I also like to highlight, which has been highlighted before, is that of the involvement of women in peacekeeping and also in peace building itself. And this is really a challenge when you look at the security forces who do not adequately include women in peacekeeping processes. In some countries, they are completely absent. In countries like Nigeria, until the last 6 years, women are not even allowed to train as actually combatants. And in the ongoing Boko Haram insurgency, just like 30 women were actually deployed, and of recent, just like 100 in the banditry region itself. And one thing that we may actually forget is the fact that even the exclusion of women in politics also hurts. Because when a woman is not on the table, how can that woman bring much to bear in terms of addressing or speaking for women, because she understands what women, young people, and the children actually faces.
Findings of the research also revealed violence among youth in these areas, as well as Burkina Faso, one of Ghana's closest neighbors. Dr. Eduaful explains this poses a major threat to our country's security, as there is a high possibility of a spillover effect, especially when there is already an uproar by the youth of Ghana over the state of the country's economy.
The issues that drive violent extremism in the Sahel are the same issues that will drive violent extremism in Ghana, issues around livelihood opportunities, lack of opportunities for the young people, the inability of the state to provide the necessary good that is supposed to provide for its citizens in terms of security, provision of social amenities. These are all things that drive violent extremism, and these things are very present in Ghana. And so if we do not deal with them, then there's a likelihood that, considering the threats around our borders and our neighboring countries, then that threat might reach our coast.
Dr. Eduaful further says military brutality is not the way to address the concerns of our youth.
Like I said in the presentation, I think, dealing with issues of violent extremism often